This is Mary Lane on the Buying Space channel. Today I'm reading from the Torah. You see the Hebrew on this side, and here's the English on this side, translated directly from the Hebrew. And these Torahs, since they read left to right, the books are, right to left. The books are right to left, like manga. So, in going forward in the book, I would turn the page this way instead of going this way. So I'm in chapter 37 in one of the most famous stories in the Old Testament about Joseph. And Joseph's father, Jacob, who was also named Israel by God, is the forefather of all the Hebrews. And his father, Isaac, and his father, Abraham, were the forefathers of Israel. But Jacob was actually called Israel, and he had 12 sons, and maybe a straggler. But he did have a straggler. Benjamin was the 13th, I believe. But I'll go over that in another video. I've also read that in the past, that genealogy. But the situation is right now that Joseph is Jacob's favorite son, and he's he had this beautiful coat of many colors made for him. And every time his brothers saw him, they disliked him because they were jealous because he was Dad's favorite. And he got this special coat. And so every time they saw him in that coat, it reminded them that they weren't Dad's favorite. No matter what they did, they always just loved Joseph. So and on top of that, Joseph has made the situation worse by revealing these dreams he's had where all of his brothers and his parents are bowing down to him, or he's in charge of them. So it's like an egotistical sting on top of jealousy, and that's not a good situation for anyone. So treat your children equally out there. You'll see what can happen. So anyway, Joseph is going out to help his brothers. His father sent him out there. And he said to them, this starting in verse 14, I pray thee, see whether it is well with thy brothers and well with the flocks, and bring me back word. So he sent him from the vale of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. And that's where his brothers were, Shechem. And a man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, What seekest thou? And he said, I seek my brothers. Tell me, pray thee, where are they feeding their flocks? And the man said, They are departed hence, for I have heard them say, Let us go to Dothan. And Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dothan. And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near them, they conspired against him to slay him. And they said to one another, Behold, here comes this man of dreams. And now come and let us slay him, and cast him into one of the pits. And we will say, Some evil beast hath devoured him, and we will see what will become of his dreams. And then Reuben heard it. Now Reuben was the oldest, from what I believe. And he delivered him out of their hand, and said, Let us not put him to death. And Reuben said unto them, Do not shed blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand upon him, that he might deliver him out of the hand, to bring him back again to his father. And it came to pass, when Joseph came unto his brothers, they stripped Joseph of his coat, the coat of many colors that was on him. And they took him and cast him into the pit. The pit was empty, there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat bread, and lifted up their ears and looked. Behold, a company of Ishmaelites was coming from Gilead, and their camels were bearing spicery and balm and lotus, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said unto his brothers, What profit will we be if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, but let our hand not be upon him, for he is our brother, our flesh. And his brothers hearkened unto him. And when the midnight's merchantmen passed by, they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And they brought Joseph unto Egypt. It's Christmas time, and I want you to look at Joseph as Jesus. Here he had 12 brothers. Jesus had 12 disciples. Jesus was special. He had 2 first cousins in his disciples, James and John. They were his first cousins. John the Baptist was his cousin too. His mother Elizabeth was a cousin to Mary. So here he was very special. He was the Son of God. He was the Messiah. And no, not all 12 of his disciples despised him. Judas probably didn't completely despise him. He was just tired because he expected Jesus to have a kingdom, to be the king like Herod was the king, to run off the Romans, for them to have a conflict and the Romans to be gone, so Israel could be independent, Judea be independent. And here Judah is proposing, is selling his brother off for silver, just like Judas Iscariot did Jesus Christ. During this holiday season, we need to think about the betrayal, the level of betrayal of the disciples, and not just Judas Iscariot. Because Peter denied him 3 times. Did any of them stand up for him? Now, they weren't the opposing force. But here, Joseph is being sold off to the Ishmaelites. They were the descendants of Ishmael, and they are the descendants of Isaac. And Isaac and Ishmael were brothers that didn't get along. And Ishmael was pushed out the door. So here, a descendant of Isaac is being sold to them. How kind do you think these Ishmaelites would have been to Joseph? Not very. And they sold him off as a slave for silver, not knowing whether he'd die, justifying it by saying, well, we can't kill him ourselves, but he has to die. And we can't be to blame for it. So if they'd have left him in the pit and he'd have survived, he would have told Father what they did. But they couldn't kill him because he was their blood. So they sent him down the road for silver to their enemies. What a horrible thing. I just can't imagine. I mean, there have been times that me and my brother haven't gotten along. We don't speak sometimes. But it always comes back around. Because we're family, we're blood. And maybe your family's like that. Sometimes you speak, sometimes you don't. You make up during holidays, hopefully. Hopefully you're not, throwing food on Thanksgiving and not talking to each other at Christmas. But it happens occasionally in families, and it's okay. But you're not selling anybody away. You're not killing anybody. You have a few words and then you forgive each other because you're family. But these brothers were ready to kill Joseph. And they sold him. And he was taken away so that they would never have to see him again. And the majority of them ready to kill him. People, you need to be fair and equal with your children. Even if you have steps. All of these 12 men had different mothers. There weren't 12 different women. There were 4 different women that bore these 12 men, but they all had the same father. So they were stepbrothers, some of them, or half brothers. I should say half brothers. So be fair to your children, whether you got halves or steps or whatever. I saw a video of a woman really going off on one of her exes because she had 3 sons, and he would bring just his son stuff that was, luxurious to the other 2 because their father or fathers were poor. And so she went off on him, and she's like, you're making your son's life worse because my other 2 sons are jealous of him, and you're harming your own son. And people were like, oh, she has no right to tell him to bring stuff for the other 2. But the mother was right. The mother was trying to protect that man's own son from his brothers, because his brothers were jealous. You can't take kids that live together and have them treated differently. They have to be treated equally. I mean, do it. If you take that child and take them to your house, you could treat them how you want at your house. But when they're together as a family, and to come in and just lavish stuff, a coat of many colors, no matter what that looks like, on one child, the children don't understand. These were grown men, and they couldn't handle it. Jealousy is a natural thing when things are unfair in the family. So please be careful during this holiday season and focus on Jesus. Think about what Jesus went through. He died on the cross for our sins. Joseph was sold off by his brothers. And Joseph's sacrifice had to happen so the events of the Hebrews happened like they did. After Joseph went to Israel, well, we'll find out what happens when Joseph goes to Israel, not Israel, but Egypt. What happens with Joseph and his lifetime, and what happened after his lifetime. These events, this betrayal, led, I'll go ahead and give the spoiler, to 400 years of slavery by the descendants of all 12 of these men. 400 years of slavery because of one betrayal. Wow. Honesty, integrity, loyalty in friendship and in family are totally important beyond words, because you don't know what your actions are going to do to that rest of that person's life or their family or their neighborhood or their county or state or nation in the future. Everything has a ripple effect. So if you stab somebody in the back or sell them down the road, whether it be for real money or whether it be for views on your YouTube channel or just the egotistical feeling of being right and being king of the hill, you are doing real damage to real people's lives. Think about that before you open your mouth. Have a wonderful and blessed day, everyone.